So this is lesson 9 in the Android learning path, and this lesson is a review of all of the previous lessons that we've taken so far in this learning path. So I'm going to open up a blank text document here, and we're just going to have a little conversation about Android learning path in review. So we started out this learning path with a lesson called Understanding Eclipse. And in that lesson, we talked about the AVD, or the Android Virtual Device Manager, Android Virtual Devices. We talked about the ADT and the SDK, and how all these parts work together to create the Android development environment. So that was basically how does Eclipse work. After that, we moved on to some Android operating system basics. We certainly couldn't teach you everything about Android in 30 minutes or however long that video was, but we talked about how Android controls applications installed on the device, what applications are applications in the background and in the foreground. And we talked about basically how Android controls a lot of the hardware and a lot of the things for us so that we as developers don't have to. Next, we talked about activities and layouts and discussed how each activity uses a layout file to describe its appearance. And we talked about some of the widgets on the screen, like a button and a text view, and how we use XML to organize our layouts in Android, and then the Java file sets the XML file as its content view when we load new activities. And then the next thing we did is we talked about properties and methods in Java class files. Java class files use properties and methods to control objects. And so that was a little bit complicated for new people, I know, but it was important that we talked about that a little bit. And then we went to the control flow and talked about jumping from method to method, and how the developer gets to choose, developer chooses order of code execution by controlling how one method goes to the next method and then returns. And then after that, we talked about tracking events. In that lesson, we introduced the logcat and outputting useful information to the log to help see what's happening in our source code. That's a real useful lesson. The logcat's tremendously powerful. After that, we looked at the configuration data, the JSON objects and arrays, and how changes to the configuration data alter our application's behavior and look and feel. We talked about loading plugins in lesson 8, and how the item type in the JSON data determines the item type. BT screen, menu, list, simple, for example. How the item type in the JSON data for a screen tells the software which type of plugin to load, and we manipulated that and loaded a blank plugin just by hand, just by writing in. And then now we're in lesson 9, which is the review. And if you took the iOS learning path, you'll remember that I just said that that learning path was just the beginning of your learning. And I'm going to say the same thing at the end of this Android learning path right now. There are tons and tons and tons of things to learn about Android that we didn't talk about. We basically spent a couple of hours reviewing how Android works and how the Eclipse development environment helps you put together applications. But it isn't possible to teach you in a couple of hours everything about being an Android developer. The idea is to pique your interest a little bit. If you're interested in continuing your learning, we encourage you to do so. You can do some incredible things with the Android operating system, and you've gotten a good understanding in the last few hours of content about how it works, so we certainly encourage you to do that. You may want to take a completely different route. You may want to learn iOS, You may want to learn plugins. You may want to learn how to self-host the Buzztouch software. There's all kinds of things that you may decide to do. Heck, you may decide to just throw in the towel and not do mobile development because now we've intimidated you too much, and that's okay too. This isn't for everybody. So we congratulate you for finishing this learning path, and we do encourage you to stay enthusiastic and stay interested because your future will be bright if you're a skilled mobile developer. So until next time, happy app building.